Early one winter morning, a few days after Christmas, the engines were up bright and early. Their crews were preparing them to go out, and everyone felt cheerful. All except James. "It's a shame, really," he yawned. "We work our wheels off all month, get one day to rest, then it's back to work. Personally, I think things are far busier between Christmas and the New Year than before." "That night in the snow must have cracked your funnel, James," retorted Duck. "We're lucky to have tons of work to do. The more work we have, the more useful we can be." "Duck's right," added Stepney. "And besides, a little hard work does an engine good. And be glad you have a long line to do it on." "Well, I'd still appreciate some help every now and then," mumbled James. "Well, then you'll be glad to know I've brought another engine to help during the post-holiday bustle," boomed a voice. It was the Fat Controller. "Stepney, you've been a wonderful help to my railway, other than your incident with the snowplow. But I still think that you all need some help before the new year arrives. D261 is all that's available." "Yes, sir," answered the engines, but they weren't happy. "That diesel," murmured Duck, "of all things." He and Stepney exchanged nervous glances. They remembered their previous encounter with D261 all too well. The next morning, Stepney was shunting in the yard. He had arranged a line of goods for Donald and was just about to go for a rest when he heard a familiar sound. "Good morning," purred D261. "How absolutely wonderful to see you again." "Goodness gracious, it's really you!" exclaimed Stepney. "I see they fixed your air intake, but why are you here?"
"Because, despite that little, incident, your controller needs more help than you steam engines can provide, and he must have known that a modern diesel such as myself was the only solution."
Stepney just rolled his eyes as D261 continued.
"But I must admit," he scowled, "it's become rather clear that you steam kettles aren't going anywhere, and I'd be foolish to think you were. So let's just stay out of each other's way and do our work."
Stepney was more than happy to oblige. "As long as you won't get in my way, I won't get in yours," he replied.
"That's that, then. If you'll excuse me, I'll need to find your controller and see what's to be done first."
Later that day, Stepney spoke to Duck about the diesel. "I don't know, Duck," he chuffed. "He's still as pompous as before, but I don't think he's going to do any real harm." "That's the problem," replied Duck. "You think they're harmless, then they pull the rails out from under you." "I know you haven't had the best experience with other diesels," said Stepney, thinking about the lies that Diesel had once told about Duck. "But we'll just have to make sure to do our own work well so that he doesn't have to stay long." But Duck was still unhappy. That evening, D261 rolled into the station for his evening passenger.
"I do believe it's time for my service," he quipped. "Take these trucks away at once and fetch my coaches as quickly as you can."
"Of course," replied Stepney. He quickly brought the coaches back to the platform, the passengers boarded, and soon the diesel began to roll away. "Feeling all right?" inquired Stepney, as D261 rolled slowly out to the station.
"Yes,"
he choked.
"I'm in tip-top shape. Just something stuck in my pipes is all. Driver will attend to it at the next station."
But he wasn't in tip-top shape. He struggled on until he reached Edward's station.
"Oh, my radiator's aching,"
he wailed as he pulled into the station. His driver phoned for help, and soon Duck arrived. He wasn't pleased. "What did I tell Stepney?" he grumbled to himself. "Now I have to move old D261 here and take his train too." That night, Duck told the others about D261. "And he moaned for his fitter the entire time I had to shunt him. Nothing's changed, I tell you. All diesels are the same." But Stepney wasn't so sure. "Duck, he seemed determined to finish the job. Certainly you can appreciate that." Pah! Snorted Duck. He was only trying to weasel his way out of work. He's no different than Diesel, and he's up to no good. Just you wait and see. After he was repaired, the Diesel went back to work. He didn't say a word to anyone, but worked as hard as he could. Duck still had his doubts. Soon, it was New Year's Eve. It was Stepney's last day on the island, and the Fat Controller had come to see him. "Stepney," he said, "you've done such marvelous work during this visit, I'd like to reward you. How would you like to take the special train to Crovans Gate tonight?" "Oh, yes, sir. Thank you, sir." "The train will be too heavy for you alone. Duck shall come with you." "Now's our chance," whispered Duck to Stepney, "to show that Diesel just how hard we steam engines really work." Suddenly, Stepney had an idea, but he kept it to himself. That evening, the engines arrived to pull the train. Before long, they had been coupled with the train, the guard's whistle had blown, and the two set off into the sunset. Their wheels pounded the rails as they puffed along. Stepney was thinking about his plan. They rushed through Edward Station and started up Gordon's Hill. But then it happened. Duck found the train getting heavier and heavier. He pulled with all his might, but soon came to a complete stop just before the top. "What happened?" he called. "Oh, I think it's a cylinder leak," Stepney called back. "Can you try to take the train without my help?" "I'll try." So they brought the train back to the bottom of the hill to try again. But with Stepney holding him back, Duck simply could not make it over the hill alone. "I suppose we'll have to call for help," Stepney said innocently. Before long, Duck's driver had phoned for help. Duck was not pleased when he saw who had to come to their rescue. "Good evening," proclaimed the Diesel as he came up from behind. Duck was horrified. "Oh dear, he's sure to make us look bad now." But Duck was wrong.
I'm here to help you two. This train is very important and we can't be late. Midnight will be here before we know it.
Duck was shocked, but there was no time for fuss as D261 buffered up to the train. Soon they were ready, and the trio set off once again for the top. Somehow, Stepney was once again puffing his hardest, but Duck was too tired to notice.
Go on,
shouted D261. And with barely any effort at all, the cavalcade cleared the top and rolled quickly down. Duck was quite impressed by G261. Soon they reached the station. The Fat Controller, who had been on the train, spoke kindly to D261. G261, fantastic work tonight. I'd say you've more than made up for your previous mishap.
Thank you kindly, sir,
he replied loftily. Yes, indeed, chuffed Stepney. Absolutely splendid. Wasn't he, Duck? Duck humbly agreed. Then D261 spoke quietly to Stepney.
Listen, Steamer, he said in a low voice. I know you didn't really have an accident.
Stepney blushed. I just wanted Duck to see that everyone deserves a second chance, even if they're a diesel, he replied sheepishly. D261 just smiled knowingly. The next day, the engines met at the junction to say goodbye to Stepney and D261. And remember, Stepney said, you're always welcome on my Bluebell Railway. Thank you, smiled Thomas, and I think you'll be coming back to visit us very soon. Take care, said Duck, and D261. Despite our differences, I want to thank you for your help with the train. You were truly a wonder.
Don't mention it.
Come on now, cheered Stepney. The Mainland awaits.
Right behind you.
And the two engines rolled away down the line. As they puffed away, Duck pondered the week's events. He certainly hadn't expected to feel so differently about diesels, but he was glad to have a friend like Stepney to help him see things from a new perspective.